All right, welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 339. If you're watching on YouTube, you got a quick preview of what the show was going to be a moment ago. If you're just listening on iTunes or Spotify, we greatly appreciate that. Or watching on YouTube later in the day, we had slight technical difficulties in Los Angeles, but it's to maybe be expected. This is earlier than we've ever done the show in Los Angeles, but I don't actually think that had anything to do with it because first things first, early today, live for you guys. Then we head to Miami for 1 year out from the World Cup celebration, and we couldn't not be on the air for this episode of What's Right with Nick Wright, presented to you by our good friends at Boost Mobile, because last night was an utterly stunning result. We will get to that in a second, but first, straight to voicemail, brought to you by Boost Mobile. Bobby Witt Jr., the player, according to anonymous MLB player poll, that is second most beloved by his fellow players as far as watching him play. Only Shohei Ohtani has more people are interested in watching him play. Aaron Rodgers can't stand his new helmet. We knew that already. And the state of American soccer, which we could spend a lot of time on, however, we're not going to, just because last night's basketball game was, to me, as stunning of a game as we've had in the finals. Gosh, for my purposes, in 15 years. That to me was as stunning of a singular, and I know it was only a 5.5 point spread, but as stunning of a singular finals game as we've had since Game 5 of Mavs Heat in 2011. And so we will get to all of that. Reminder to you guys, follow us on YouTube if you don't mind. We're close to 210,000 subscribers. Also, subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, all of that. DeMonze is bravely repping his old school Shai Gilgeous-Alexander jersey that was purchased, 5 years ago?
5 years
like
ago,
right
Kansas
after the Thunder got Shai, before he was anything close to an all-star, much less a superstar. He's repping it right after they have their first, in my opinion, truly devastating loss of the year. So let's get into, first of all, proud of you. Good job in that regard. Second of all, let's get into the game.
So you said the Pacers had to win this game, and they went out there and win it. Their role players showed up. OKC's role players did little for them. Shai even kind of underwhelmed a little bit.
Yep.
Do you think that performance is replicable for the Pacers?
Well, what I think is this. I think we have something now that I never thought we were going to have, which is a real series that could go either way. And I'm shocked Indy won that game. And I know I shouldn't be, because again, 5.5 point underdogs win all the time. It's not like, and they were at home.
They were at home. Yeah.
And I understand all of that. I really do. And the only solace I have, I suppose, from a personal perspective in all, my terrible poker results from last week in Vegas is, had I not had terrible poker results last week in Vegas, I almost assuredly would have fired considerably on the Thunder to win this basketball game. Because I have bought in. I have bought in that the 2025 Oklahoma City Thunder, as far as singular seasons, are an all-time team. That Indiana did not have an answer for Shai, and as we talked about, I think pretty intelligently on Tuesday, it is just so hard, unless you have the best defense in basketball, to win a championship if your best player is a pass-first guy, if he's not a just go-get-you-a-bucket guy. And we talked about it on Tuesday, that the greatest point guards we've seen in the history of this league, aside from Magic Johnson, were not able to crack that code if they were. Listen, Steph did it, obviously. He's not a pass-first guy. Zeke did it. He could have scored more, but also had the best defense in basketball. But Jason Kidd or Chris Paul or, hell, Oscar Robertson before he had Akeem, or Bob Cousy before he had Russell, Steve Nash, those guys, it's just so hard because you are going to come across a team whose best guy can go get a bucket whenever he wants. And how do you answer that? And again, I'm not acting as if the Pacers have won the series. I am acting as if, however, we now have a series. And now all of a sudden, the Pacers have a game to play with. The Pacers, DeMonze, go into game 4, and I'm sure they won't view it this way, but it's a house money game. They go into game 4 saying, all right, if we win, we have a vice grip on this series, and if we lose, we already know we can win in Oklahoma City. And unlike game 1, which you give the Pacers credit for their heart and their grit and all of that, game 1, however, let's be honest, felt fluky. It felt like, okay, Oklahoma City took their eye off the ball for just a minute, and the Pacers stormed through that door.
How can you say it felt fluky if this is what they do? When they get in those late game situations and they can overcome them. I think they just did it again.
So, but that's not what they did here.
Oh yeah, no, not in this game. I'm talking about game 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So here's why I'm saying it didn't feel fluky that they hit, that Haliburton hit the game winner. That didn't feel fluky. What felt fluky was the fact that Oklahoma City led seconds into the game. The Pacers never closed the gap, that it was a 14-point game in the fourth quarter. And it was, and all of a sudden the Pacers have a chance to steal it. And you're right, that was the 4th time they've done that in these playoffs. I get that. So maybe fluky's the wrong word.
Chiefs.
But not, they weren't going to win 4 games that way. They were not going to win 4 games where Oklahoma City dominates the game and then they come roaring back. Like they've won 1 game a series that way.
Right.
And then game 2, when Oklahoma City dominated from start to finish, that felt to me much more indicative of the game we were going to get, where the Pacers are good, but Oklahoma City's great. And instead, everything you wanted to see from Indiana, they did. They did bother Shai more. Haliburton was more aggressive. Siakam was more efficient. And the star of the game, Benedict Mathurin, who has had such an interesting playoffs. So Mathurin, who the Pacers beat DeMonze because they never tank, don't have a lot of super high draft picks on their team. And in fact, I think I don't know if it's franchise history like the last 30 years or something, but there's only 2 guys that they have drafted in the top 9 or something. I'm going to get those details a little wrong, but it's about that. Mathurin and a kid who's hurt. And Mathurin was it looked like, oh wait, is he going to be odd man out when in the Cleveland series, game 4, he basically gets a DNP coach's decision. Game 5, he only plays 11 minutes. Then against the Knicks, game 2, 11 minutes, 0 points. Game 3, 8 minutes, 2 points. And it looked like Carlisle was souring on him. And then Mathurin has had, in the last 6 games, 3 just unbelievable stat lines off the bench. Game 4 against the Knicks, 12 minutes, 20 points. Game 5 against the Knicks, 25 minutes, 23 points. And then last night, game 3 against the Thunder, 22 minutes, 27 points. I'm going to pull it up so we have it exactly. But since he was basically, it looked like, oh man, is Carlisle done with him? In the 6 games since then, Benedict Mathurin has played 106 minutes and scored 93 points. The guy is basically a point a minute over his last 6 games. None more important or noteworthy than last night when nobody had an answer for him. When he was the X factor off the bench for them. And so yes, listen, TJ McConnell did TJ McConnell things, and he loves getting those steals in the backcourt. You know, he's just a white man's Jose Alvarado. Like, I'm gonna play this scrappy style. I'm gonna annoy you. He doesn't go out of bounds and trick people like that. But he's a pest. And one of his steals, the one where he just caught the inbound pass and laid it up, was one of the dopest things. That was one of the coolest mini highlights of the season.
Yeah.
He just jumped up and grabbed it and laid it up.
Right there, 100%. Call OKC off guard a couple times with that.
Yeah, and so he made 3 baskets. I feel like and he had 5 steals. So TJ McConnell off the bench, 5 steals. Obi Toppin off the bench, 4 of 5 from 2, and some big rebounds. And Ben Mathurin, man, 9 of 12, got to the free throw line 8 times, which is another thing he did against the Knicks. He drew fouls and got to the line. He's plus 16 in 22 minutes.
Gives OKC another thing to have to worry about.
100%. And credit where it's due to Haliburton. Because Haliburton, the point that I made, now let me just be clear here. My playoff bracket and my playoff predictions are in shambles. I have been wrong about pre-series picks more this playoffs than any playoffs I can remember. And bet of the year, which we'll get to later, is on life support. It's truly on life support. My in-series analysis has been far better. And one of the points that excuse me, I apologize. One of the points I made after game 2 was the Pacers need to recognize you are not playing a good shot, great shot team. You are playing a bad shot, decent shot, take the shot. And it felt like Haliburton understood that. That Haliburton, when his teammates go 5 of 21 from 3, when aside from Mathurin, nobody hits more than 1 3, when aside from Siakam, none of the other starters really seem like they have it offensively, he understood, I've got to be a little more aggressive looking for my own shot, and he did. Now, the ball was still popping and moving, and he still had his 11 assists, and he was a rebound shy of a triple-double. But he was a little more aggressive offensively. And here's the other thing the Pacers do. Man, they wear your ass out. Where they are, and part of this is because Carlisle trusts the bench. Like, it is remarkable, DeMonze, that in a basketball game that, keep in mind, I thought the Thunder kind of stole the game. A sneaky, what could have been a sneaky huge moment was the very end of the third quarter when the Pacers are up 1 with 35 seconds left. And Chet gets a dunk and 1. Now they're up 2. McConnell misses like a 5-footer. And then J-Dub hits a 3 basically at the quarter buzzer. And it went from oh, the Pacers are going to have the lead going into the fourth, to the Pacers are down 5 going into the fourth, and then it didn't, they crushed them in the fourth 32-18. But the fact that Haliburton, in what I felt was a gotta-have-it, must-win game that was nip and tuck really throughout, he only played 36 minutes. Like, Haliburton has not played 40 minutes in a regulation playoff game this year, which is maybe one of the reasons he's so good at the end, but it's a testament to the Pacers that they're able to do that, have their best player on the bench and not get blown out. And the Thunder at the end of this game were the tired team.
Indiana seemed like they switched identities with OKC yesterday as far as defense. Indiana's a lot more suffocating. They're flying around. OKC was obviously still playing decent defense, but it just seemed like the Pacers had a lot more energy on defense. Obi Toppin looked like he hadn't played in the fourth quarter at all.
Listen, Pacers 13 steals, Thunder 6. Pacers 14 turnovers, Thunder just 19. Thunder 19, not just 19. Pacers won the points off turnovers battle 21-14. They won the fast break points battle 17-10. Like, a lot of these metrics that the Thunder have been eating off of, and those aren't really metrics, those are just kind of old school stats, eating off of all year, the Pacers won. And for the Pacers to win that game when J-Dub plays that well, man, oh man. Like, because I thought Jalen Williams was excellent.
He played well.
I also thought...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I also thought for the first time this series, and one of the only times all playoffs, it felt like Daigneault was struggling to find who on my bench do I trust. He threw Isaiah Joe in there. Isaiah Joe hit a couple threes in a couple minutes. He didn't go back. Aaron Wiggins didn't have it. Caruso didn't have the impact he'd been having. It was probably Hartenstein's worst game of the playoffs. And so even though Cason Wallace played well, Dort played well, J-Dub played excellent, and we'll get to Shai and Chet in a second, but you can't say either one of those guys was horrific. Like, neither one of those guys had just awful games. Indy stormed back and then was in firm control for the second half of that fourth quarter. They take the lead with 8 minutes left after being down 5 going into the quarter and never relinquish it. And stretch it at one point all the way up to 8 points. And credit to the officials, by the way, for not going flagrant foul.
The flagrant for Nesmith?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it would have...
They were calling for it on the broadcast, too, it seemed like.
Which was weird. But again, I don't know the broadcast. It doesn't matter. Point that, because it was a terrible Haliburton turnover. Probably his worst moment of the game. And you're up 8 with 3 minutes left with the ball. You get a bucket, the game's basically over. What you can't allow is the live ball turnover, transition layup, all of a sudden it's 6. Still, what you really can't allow is a 4 or 5 point possession, which is what could have happened if they would have called a flagrant. They didn't call a flagrant. And I thought Indiana, if I'm being totally honest, and then we'll get to the OKC side of things, was as funny as odd as this is, DeMonze, because they've been so good when they've been trailing. I thought Indiana was a little shaky on their late game execution. So with 3 minutes left, you have, or 2.5 minutes left, I guess, was the Haliburton turnover and then almost the flagrant. The next possession, Miles Turner turnover. The next possession, kind of an early in the shot clock, Nesmith 3. Siakam then makes a bucket, calms things down. But then you're up 8 with a minute left, and you commit a dumb foul. That you can't do. The next possession, you commit a foul. Halliburton upset he doesn't get the call, and they commit a foul. You're up 7 with 35 seconds left. And the ball's 80 feet from the basket. Just don't foul. So there were a few moments late where it looked like Indiana, Nembhard committed a foul with 17 seconds left. Again, those things didn't end up mattering, but they could have. But overall, man, what a performance. And it is not lost on me that I said this was, to me, the most shocking singular finals game for me since Game 5, 2011, Mavs Heat. And the coach of the team that pulled off that upset and the coach of the team that pulled off this upset are the same guy, Rick Carlisle, who I imagine once the finals are over, the Knicks are going to say, hey, can we interview him? Demonte, read me one of the questions from the chat.
So Anonymous 354 says, Nick, what do you think has been the issue with a lot of pundits getting behind the Pacers as a good team? Hey, Anonymous 354, I've been there with you, but go ahead.
So listen, I don't think people have denied that the Pacers are a good team. I do think I think it's fair to say people have not acted as if the fact that they have the second best record in basketball since, and I don't think have lost consecutive games since January 1, I think that people have dismissed that maybe a little more than they should have. But I think this was less about a dismissal of Indiana and more about a reverence for OKC, who, if we're being honest, through 2 games, controlled 96% of this series. 96 minutes played, OKC led for 91, was tied for 2.5, and trailed for 2. But yesterday was not that. We'll get to the OKC side in a second, but first, the NBA Finals are here. This is your last chance to bet on the NBA until next season. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is pulling out all the stops to make this a Finals to remember. One team will be crowned champ. The other will be lost to history. Who you got winning it all? Put your hoops expertise to the test. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Who's going to carry their team to the chip? Try placing a bet on your personal MVP to drop 30, 40. Maybe we even get the first 50-point finals game since Giannis in the closeout game in 2021. Ready to place your first bet? Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Lock in your bets and finish the season as a winner. Something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers, bet $5 to get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Don't miss your last chance to bet on the NBA this season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code WRIGHT. That's right with a W, guys, WRIGHT. That's code WRIGHT for new customers to get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, Demonte, let's get to the OKC side of things.
Your bet of the year, OKC minus 1.5
Yikes.
on the series is struggling. OKC just needs to win every single game in a row to close out the series. How do you think OKC?
For that bet to cash.
100%. How do you think that OKC is going to respond now that the pressure's on them? They're going back to Indiana.
All right, I know this is cliche. I understand that this might be too simplistic for some of the more erudite members of NBA Twitter, but I don't care. Game 4 is about one guy and one other guy. And that one guy is Shai. Shai was mediocre yesterday. He was 9 of 20. He didn't get all the Shai calls that he's used to. He turned the ball over a half dozen times. He was targeted a fair amount defensively. And he never even had like that stretch of the game where it's like, oh, a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander individual 7-0 run. He is the league MVP. He had scored 72 points in the first 2 finals games. He came into this game with, I think, the 7th highest finals average for a single series in league history. He came into this game averaging 36 a game and really being not just the best player on the court, but head and shoulders markedly better than whomever the second best player was. And then yesterday he had an off night. You don't kill him for it. You unequivocally do not kill him for it. But the pressure is on him in Game 4. The best player in the league conversation was starting. We were already, Demonze thought that I was too premature, and he might have ended up being right. Some of Demonze's playoff takes might end up aging a lot better than mine.
If you go back and watch these pods, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, because after, what was it? It was Game 4 against Minnesota when I just basically did the Thunder have won the championship, but they're not a dynasty yet, the show.
Yeah.
And you were like, can we slow down a bit?
100%.
And I was like, no, we can't. I think Thunder have won the title. Now, Demonze wanted to pump the brakes on me a couple weeks ago doing that. I can't imagine how he felt watching sports TV, Monday and Tuesday, when forget that the Thunder have won this title, the Thunder have won the next few. Like, we were full-fledged dynasty discussion in a lot of places. And by the way, I still think the Thunder are going to win the series.
Crazy.
You think that's crazy? Right now,
Crazy.
You would pick Indiana?
100%. I'm picking Indiana. I think they're going to... Honestly, this is probably just emotion. I just don't want OKC to win. I want the Pacers to win it. I like the Pacers a lot more. And I do truly think the Pacers can win it. I don't think that in the next game exactly what happened this last game will happen. But the other players that didn't play to their best standard can make up for the Mathurin or the TJ McConnell. I think TJ McConnell's game is pretty replicable. But yeah, I feel pretty strongly about it.
Okay. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, that commentary from Demonze made total sense. If you're watching on YouTube, it might be a little confusing, as he is saying, I just want Indiana to win, while proudly wearing his SGA jersey. So it might be somewhat, there might be a little...
Especially if you just tuned in like 2 minutes ago.
Right. So I credit to you for that take. I still think OKC's better. And I still think that they are, while my -2.5 or minus a game and a half take is in trouble, OKC still should have in their back pocket a Game 7 in their building where they have lost 2 playoff games all year, both on buzzer beaters. However, in order to get to a Game 7, they have to win a game in Indiana. And Shai is the guy that, in that context, has to be better than he was, not in this series or in this postseason, but than he was last night. The other guy who I'm going to, shine a light on a bit is the highest drafted player on this team, and the guy a lot of people thought, Shai obviously has superseded this, but had the highest upside of any of these guys, at least as prospects, and that's Chet. Now, listen, Chet last night was 6 of 9 inside the arc, 8 of 9 from the free throw line, gave you 20 and 10. You can't kill Chet for his performance last night at all. What's odd for him this series is he just can't hit his three. He's now 1 for 10 in the series from three. Last night took 6 of them. And Jalen Williams had been consistent but inefficient in this series prior to last night. Last night he was good. He was 50% from the field and from three. Last night Jalen Williams was the best player on the Thunder. Game 4, Shai's got to be exceptional, and Chet's just got to make a few range shots. I think they can. I think they will. What do you think, DeMonte? I don't know if I'm guessing you haven't looked. What do you think the line for Game 4 is in Indiana?
I'd say Indiana. It's OKC -3. That's where
OKC -6.
Jesus.
OKC is -220 for the series still. They're -6 in this game. I'm telling you, DraftKings and Vegas do not believe. And now, -220 isn't -700, which is where OKC was to start the series, but they still think OKC's in very good shape. Let me put it like this. -220 would still be one of the 7 biggest finals upsets ever. What OKC is favored by right now, down to 1. Losing that would be the 7th biggest finals upset of all time. And here's the other thing. I'm really excited to see what Shai has for us here. Because Jokic is not the right example in this, because Jokic in his one NBA Finals, they lost game 1, but then, first of all, that Heat team was wildly overmatched, and second of all, they then won 4 straight. Giannis's one NBA Finals, however, is an interesting one, where they're down 0-2 to Phoenix, and he responds with a 41-13-6, then a 26-14-8, then a 32-9-6, including, I think that was the game with the steal by Drew and the alley-oop, and then of course game 6, he had the 50-14. How does the MVP, scoring champ, leader of the team, Daniels reminded me, Denver lost game 2, not game 1, but the point kind of remains. Even after losing game 2, they were never really in jeopardy. They never, even more to the point, they never trailed in the series. Thank you, Daniel. I forgot that. I just knew they lost one of the first 2. But how does Shai respond? Now you can say, well, how did he respond when they were trailing in the series against Denver? And the answer to that question is, responded decently. He wasn't great in that game 4 that they won. He had 25 on 8 of 19. But then he was exceptional the final 3 games of that series after it was 2-2. And after falling down 0-1 to Denver, they beat Denver by 40 points. But this is a different type of pressure. This is a different situation.
And they need to win convincingly, huh? Like, I feel like if this is a close game and, like, Indiana just has that, the mindset of all these games are going to be close, then I think that they can bite OKC and catch them slacking again.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant they need to win convincingly rather than just win a close one for, like, morale purposes. You're saying that
No, they need
if they're not up big, they risk blowing it at the end.
Yeah, 100. They risk blowing it again. No, I honestly think they have to try to take some of the Pacers' confidence away. And if it's a close game, then the Pacers are going to feel like they're in it the entire time, which they are. But
well, I'm really impressed by the Pacers' stamina. Now, part of this is that the bench, they're playing all of it. But Shai, one of the brilliant things about Shai is the dude never looks tired.
Because he lays down for 30 seconds after he falls down by himself.
Yeah, that part's true. But he's never like dripping in sweat. You know what I mean? He always seems very in control. Yesterday, at the end of the game, we saw some hands on your knees type of stuff. And that is what the Pacers do to you. And so listen, I can't front on this. I just have to be totally candid. I am shocked we're able to actually analyze this series. You guys know what I thought, that I thought it could be 4-0, that I thought it would be 4-1, that I thought the worst case scenario for OKC was 4-2. And listen, that's still on the board. 4-2 I wouldn't be shocked if OKC wins the next three. But man, last night's game I did not see coming from a mile away. And people can say it's bad analysis by me, whatever it is. I don't care. Like, I just have to be honest with the audience. I did not see that coming from a mile away. All right, we'll get into the Knicks head coach stuff in a second. But first, you ever sign up for a phone plan thinking, wow, what a price? And then a few months later, it's like, surprise, bill's higher. With Boost Mobile, our friends at Boost Mobile, you pay $25 a month forever. Unlimited talk, text, data, starting at just $25 a month. No price hikes, no contract, forever. Plus, Boost Mobile is now a legit nationwide 5G network. They've invested billions building 5G towers across the country. Visit boostmobile.com or head to your local Boost store today and get unlimited talk, text, and data for $25 a month forever. 5G speeds not available in all areas. After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 a month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan. All right, DeMonze, let's go to the Knicks head coaching search and a few other things before I have to get out of here because we're doing first things first early today.
So the Knicks were asking a bunch of coaches who already had jobs to be their next coach after firing Tibbs. Seems like that has not worked out so far. You said that you haven't closed the door on Kidd being the coach. How do you see it playing out now that all these teams have said no to them?
All right, listen, this might sound devil's advocate-y, but can I make the case for the Knicks here?
All right.
If you're not worried about that it looks like embarrassing, what's the harm in asking? So they have now asked and been rejected as far as not necessarily by the coach, but by the team. For the Rockets with Udoka, the Mavs with Kidd, the Timberwolves with Finch, the Hawks with Quinn Snyder, and there's one other one that I'm forgetting. I know it's been 5 teams. The producers maybe, Billy Donovan with the Bulls. So they have asked about 5 head coaches. Now that seems haphazard and it seems amateurish. I understand that. But this is the argument that I would make on the Knicks' behalf. If they've known all along, hey, assistant coach X is someone we are comfortable with. Brew has talked a lot about Johnny Bryant. Let's just use him as a placeholder. He used to be here. Our players liked him. He didn't get the Suns job, right? They feel that way. They also feel confident that no other coach is getting fired. There's only 2 teams left playing, so it'd be and obviously Dagenhalt and Carlisle aren't getting fired. So they don't have to worry about anybody potentially jumping them in the line for one of those assistant coaches. If they have that in their back pocket, what's the problem being like, hey, awesome coach Y, we'd love to talk to you. Are you interested in talking to us? And the team saying, no, you can't. They're like, okay, no harm in asking. There is an element of this that I gotta say I almost respect.
The humility?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's humility, but like the lack of shame in that, hey, like if I'm an NBA coach at this point and the Knicks haven't asked to talk to me, I'm a little offended. And like if you're Eric Spoelstra or Joe Mazzulla, are you not like, hey, what you don't want to talk to me?
It's insane.
Well, Spoelstra's a funny one because obviously Pat Riley, was the head coach of the Knicks. He now runs the Heat. Spo's not going anywhere. Mazzulla's not going anywhere. Kerr's not going anywhere. I understand all that. But I'll tell you who, and again, they would get rejected. But my buddy, who I just saw for the first time in a few months, Ty Lue, when I was out in Vegas.
Ty Lue?
Yeah, the Ty Lue. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Kansas City's own. Us native Kansas Cityans, we got it. I mean, he's from Mexico City, Missouri, but still.
All right.
Ty Lue's got to feel like, where's my ask? Why haven't you asked Ballmer to interview me? Now, I think Ballmer would say no. Here's the thing, and this is where I am serious. What is the harm? What is it? And for everyone making fun of and I'm not a Knicks fan, but for everyone making fun of the Knicks on Twitter, someone finish the thought. This is awful because ... They look disorganized? I mean, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you fired your coach and you had kind of basically no plan and you can't find one. But you're saying if they had an assistant coach over there that they trusted, in that scenario, I guess it does make sense.
Yeah,
but
and not necessarily one of their own assistants,
right,
but an assistant somewhere else in the league. Here's the thing. Most teams when they fire their coach, it's not because they knew who the next coach is going to be. It's because they don't want that guy to be their coach anymore.
But I guarantee you most of the candidates that they're asking for aren't currently employed.
Well, right. They're not setting their sights high enough, I guess. But when the Nuggets fired Michael Malone, they did not know who that Dave Adelman was going to get that job. They knew he was going to be interim, and then they were going to do a coaching search. Now, because they played well in the postseason, they felt they didn't need to do a coaching search. And so, if people want to argue they shouldn't have fired Tibbs, so be it. I think they might be right about that. I also understand, and this was the analogy I used on the show yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs won double-digit games and won the division basically every year with Alex Smith. But they felt like there was a hard ceiling, so they were going to take a risk, trade up for, a rookie quarterback, and then after he had basically no experience whatsoever, trade away Alex Smith, knowing our floor might get way lower, but we want a chance to win a championship. Now, that guy ended up being the greatest quarterback to ever live in Patrick Mahomes, so it worked out beautifully. But on a much briefer scale, the Minnesota Vikings with Sam Darnold. Like, yeah, we won 14 games. We made the playoffs. We want a chance, though, to be great, so we're going to move on from you. That, to me, is the logic with what they did with Tibbs. They felt like, you're a good coach, but we are not going to win 4 straight rounds if we don't, with this roster, if we don't get an upgraded coach, so we're going to roll the dice. And the first dice, the first half dozen dice rolls are, they went after the best and the brightest. I think it is a weird look. I don't think it actually has a tangibly negative impact on them. All right, let's talk KD and Giannis.
Giannis shut down any trade rumors that there were circulating, saying that he would like to be in Milwaukee next year and win a championship. So that makes the KD sweepstakes much more interesting. And Shams reported that Houston's, San Antonio, Miami, Minnesota, and the Knicks are all interested. Which team would you see KD suiting up for? And
all
is
right.
Giannis just waiting for KD to pick a team?
So
see where he should go?
Yeah, so I'm not ready to say the Giannis thing's done.
Right.
I don't think the Giannis thing is guaranteed that he's asking for a trade, but I certainly don't think it's guaranteed that he's staying in Milwaukee. But the Giannis trade is going to be more complicated, and in 2/3 of the league are going to be interested. There seems to be a lot of smoke surrounding Durant and the Spurs. That's a fun one that I'm interested in, but I do not think that team can win a championship. I just don't think Wemby is ready yet to be...
Is that Kevin Durant's goal?
What a question. Do you not think it is?
I mean, he wants to go play in San Antonio. It doesn't necessarily seem like it is. I don't think that he thinks that he's the missing piece from San Antonio getting to a championship.
Well, and to be fair, we don't know where he wants to go play. But listen,
if it were to be San Antonio, but it seems like... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, listen. The Spurs, it's not like... If he were to go to Miami and pick Miami, then I would say he's not that worried about winning a title. Because they can't win.
Right.
With respect to him, you'd have to give up something for him, even if you kept Hero and Bam. That team's not good enough. The Spurs, Castle's good. De'Aaron Fox is really good. Wemby has unlimited upside. And if Durant still feels like, and I'm the, 5th best player in the NBA, even if he's closer to the 15th best player in the NBA, like, it's not like he'd be going somewhere where they have no shot whatsoever. So the Spurs to me are interesting, but it wouldn't put them over the top. Those other 3 teams, you could maybe convince me on any of them that team could win the title. If you took away Jalen Green's minutes and gave them to Kevin Durant, they beat the Warriors. Like, that's not even, to me, a question. They beat the Warriors, and then they have a real, a real shot. Next year, Şengün a little better. You're going to have a great defense with Udoka. Like, that, to me, that team is really interesting. Now, that's the perfect Giannis team, but Houston is really interesting. Anthony Edwards plus Durant, if Ant can level up just a touch, that one's interesting. And the Knicks, I don't think the Knicks necessarily would be better than... The Knicks with Durant wouldn't necessarily be better than Houston or Minnesota with Durant. But because one's in the East and one's in the West, like the Knicks would be a really fascinating one. And one that I would be really interested in seeing how it plays out. I do think KD has at least one more elite year left in the tank. And I also think people need to understand, because of his contract, he's not easy to trade. So, like, the idea, I know that Shams has said there are wild card suitors. You got to find wild card suitors that aren't second apron and can get the salaries together and all of that. And so I would imagine, just my guess, that one of the wild card suitors is the Clippers. That'd be a very hard trade to pull off. And that's one I wouldn't like seeing. Yeah, I've seen Durant with Harden. I'm not, and like Kawhi's an injury risk, Durant's an injury risk. I'd like to see Durant be the old vet on a young team. Like, you know what I mean? I think that would be fun. But Durant is 100% getting traded. Giannis might get traded, and then we'll see what the other moves are. All right, do we have a couple listener questions, DeMonte, we can get to quickly before I got to get out of here?
Yeah, Wilkich asks, which is more likely, Thunder coming back or DeMonte's Reckley team turning it around?
What's the answer?
I'd honestly say DeMonte's Reckley team turning it around.
Wow.
I think that the Pacers, I just think the Pacers are going to win this series, man.
That would be great. Can I just say something else? And I'm gonna bring my our pod setup with us to Miami. And if the Pacers win Game 4 Friday night, I'll do sometime Saturday morning some emergency pod type of thing. It would be awesome if the Pacers win.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to, but it would be awesome. Joseph says, "What's up with the gun show today, DeMonte? Looking all jacked." You know what's so funny? And this is a compliment, DeMonte. Don't take this the wrong way. I actually was thinking the opposite. I was like, you need to hit those push-ups a little bit more, man. You're not as...
I do, though. 100%.
No, for real. You're in great shape and a great athlete. But just for, like, when I saw you in your jersey, I'm like, oh, DeMonte's a little skinnier than he was a few months ago.
Yeah.
Like,
Appreciate you, Ethan. Or no, not Ethan. Right. Joseph, sorry. All
right, Nick Wright Muse, what did he say, DeMonte?
Quick grammar check for Nick. I know Nick will appreciate this. He said change tack a couple of times now on First Things First in the herd, and it's change tack.
Really? It's so that. Thank you. I do appreciate that. I have said they need to change their tact, T-A-C-T, and he's saying that the phrase is it needs to change tack, which is T-A-C-K. I didn't know that. I'll look up why that is. I had no idea. All right. Appreciate the Blue Duck and Volume folks for fixing our technical difficulties. Appreciate Boost Mobile for sponsoring the show, for DraftKings for being great, and everybody out west for getting up early. Stay safe. I'm heading to First Things First, then to Miami. We will talk to you guys maybe Saturday morning, maybe Monday morning, definitely Tuesday morning. See you guys then. What's right?